Today we are going to be making pillows with cute little sayings in buttons. This is actually like a cover. It was like a pillow cover for a pillow that my daughter already had on her bed. So for this one, I'm just going to demonstrate how to make an actual stuffed throw pillow. So if you want to make something like this, it's the same thing that we're doing. The only difference is I didn't close the whole bottom and I put naps under there. It can be used as like a pillowcase kind of thing. So this one said happy. I first started the idea because my daughter has a pillow on her bed that I usually put like a seasonal pillowcase on. I wanted to put something new on there that she hadn't seen before. I'd seen this idea in some stores and I thought it would be cute to make. And this one that I'm going to be working on is going to say smile. Well, this one is 13 by 24. It's going to be long and skinny. You can sort of, do whatever dimensions you want. To start with, I chose my front fabric and my back fabric, and I'm using a scrap of gray wool and a piece of cotton that I previously covered a bench in her room with, so I had a scrap. I went and I ironed on a usable interfacing to give it a little bit of stiffness, and for some reason my edges didn't take, so I went and pinned them on so it wouldn't drive me nuts and I wouldn't rip it off while I'm sewing. I wanted to decide what I wanted to put on it, and I'm using just a white Taylor pencil. I ironed it and some of the pencil got a little lighter there, so I'm just going to go back over that. And this is going to be my guideline, the buttons that I'm going to sew on. So I don't know if you can see that real well there, but one of the things that got me going on this project was a few years back I bought a collection of, they were all the same, and they were like button sample cards that someone must have had. And I've used a lot of them now, but some of them had metal around. They're sort of like a gray mother of pearl is what they're like, shell buttons. And I used a lot of the white ones on the last one, but I thought I need to use some of those up because they've just been sitting. I've been really trying to use up some of my stash here because when we move to the other house, I'm not going to have as much room. So I had a lot of vintage actual china buttons. I have a lot of pearl buttons. So I thought, let's use those up on a project. So this is perfect for that project. First thing I'm going to have to do is choose what buttons I want to use. For the first step, I also wanted to, I had these really neat buttons. I think I might have talked about these in some other, they're incomparable buttons, and they're made in South Africa, and they're all handmade. But because the other fabric has the big yellow flowers, I thought about using one of these as the dot on the lowercase I to tie the pillows together. And on the other one, I got these 3 spools of nylon thread in a surprise package from Hirschner's. So I thought, well, I should use them up. And this was the perfect project because I didn't really want the white or gray thread to deter from the buttons. So it's not complicated. If you wanted to put it on a hoop or something, you could. I'm going to start off right here. And I used a variety of, so I tried to use a variety of different buttons. I'm going to go sew those on. So I'm going to sew all the buttons on, and when I come back we will look at all the buttons. But if you can see that I used a wide variety of different kinds here, primarily with the emphasis on all the white or the the pearl color. So that's what I'm going to be doing. There's really no way to tell you how many buttons to use because all the buttons are different shapes. So you just sort of have to lay it out ahead of time. If you don't have a large supply of buttons, maybe lay it down on a flat surface and line up your buttons until you have enough. Remember, a good source of buttons, which sounds crazy, but buttons are no longer that cheap in the stores. So you go to a thrift store and look for things that have a lot of buttons, a lot of white buttons. men's dress shirts, you can often find the nice shell buttons. Look for the largest size you can find. It's going to give you the most fabric and the most buttons off of it, and you can just cut those buttons off and use it, and it's usually a lot cheaper than buying the new buttons. If you have access to thrift stores or antique stores, I buy a lot of buttons at antique stores. So I'm going to go sew these buttons on, and when we come back, we'll look at how to sew it into the pillow and how to stuff it. I got the buttons done. So I did the smile, and I did the big flower to tie in the flowers on the other fabric back sides. It turned out well. I wish I would have moved it over a little bit. It's a little off center, which sort of drives me nuts, but maybe when I get it sewn up, it will look better. So I did it all in the nylon threads, and now we are going to put both of our print, or the right side, correct sides together. I'm going to line it up, and we're going to go sew it. And I'm going to leave I'm going to leave this end down here open so we can stuff it. Remember, we're stuffing this one like a regular throw pillow, and then we'll sew that end shut. So let's go on over to the sewing machine and we'll get this sewing. About a 1/2 inch seam allowance here. I'm just doing a straight stitch. Now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm just going to do a zigzag close to that edge, close to that original straight seam, just for reinforcement. Done, and now we're going to go turn it right side out. Okay, let's get some stuffing, and we're going to stuff it. I'm going to sort of compensate for not getting my letters lined up exactly, and fold in my ends somewhat here. And I stuffed down as close to the end as I could, and after you get done sewing, you can sort of squish it around and hand sew the end closed. Okay, I got them all done and on bed, and it was a good way to use up. I had all those vintage buttons and I think it looks cute. You could always turn one over too to bring out the little matching flower button there. So this has been the button throw pillow project. I said the one I made, it was like a pillowcase that I did snaps just to cover an existing pillow, and we made the throw pillow together that we actually stuffed. So you could do it either way. You could also make it a big full pillow cover for a sham, and you could put snaps along the edge. This has been a fun project, so I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.